Hello guys, and welcome back to a little update video on the Beekse Bergen Project. This is mainly for anyone who didn't watch today's Red Panda Day stream or who doesn't follow me on Twitter. If that's you, then you haven't heard of what was happening while I was preparing for the Red Panda stream. Basically, for a long time I knew that the real life zoo was too big to fit into the Planet Zoo map. It's why we are working at a 1:1:5 scale. But when I started this project, I pretty clumsily decided how I was going to fit the zoo into the map through this grid. And I excluded a small part, thinking I'd find a way around it. When I started working in more detail, I would take more detailed Google Maps screenshots and lay them over my grid, stitching them together manually. They didn't always line up perfectly, but it was close enough. Though, as the project grew, so did my standards, and I found myself wondering if I should restart more and more often. My sloppy choices at the start are really beginning to bite me in the blubber now. It became increasingly difficult to make sense of the grid. So I decided to take a step back and find a way to get a more organized reference grid. I found a way to take high resolution screenshots of Google Maps, making it so that the errors I made stitching together screenshots were no longer a factor. I had the perfect reference 6 months into the project. As a result, the project is full of errors, something I cannot stand for. Therefore, I must announce that I will be restarting the entire project. We're gonna build it from the ground up. I'm kidding, that's crazy. Surprisingly, most of the park lines up perfectly. There are a few exceptions, but they either have no consequences or they were made on purpose, like the elephant field being off by half a grid to make room for a more detailed Africa village. The only thing that's an issue, and the true announcement of this update, is the crocodile and hippo residence being completely off. After I built the first hole, I noticed it was rotated a bit too much, and I didn't see an issue in this. Also, I'd already put so much work into the build that I didn't feel like changing it. So I continued to build on it, adding the backstage area. This was, of course, a huge mistake. With my new reference grid, I could tell the building was not only rotated improperly, but also in completely the wrong spot, and this was a big issue. I mentioned that there was already a part of the park that was not going to fit into the map. With the crocodile and hippo residence being in the wrong spot, there would be even less space. This was not just a matter of being inaccurate, something I might have been able to live with, this was a matter of being able to build some things at all. So I had to make the decision to move everything that's currently in the wrong spot. This includes the crocodile and hippo residence, but also the tiger and zebu habitats. This sets us back about a month progress-wise, but it shouldn't take me that long to rebuild things. After all, I can copy over a lot of things, like the crocodile and hippo residence building. In fact, this morning before the stream I spent around 3 hours doing just that. So I hope to be back to making new videos in a week or two. In the meantime, I do plan to stream a bit more frequently, fixing what was lost or doing other odd jobs around the zoo that are yet to be done. I have a huge to-do list to work through, so hopefully I can see you then. If you decide to stick around, in this video I'll quickly go over some of the fixes I've already made. First, I had to blueprint all of the old stuff, so I could store it somewhere and use it again later. And I had to make sure that everything was included. I didn't want to leave out a single thing. Then I had to delete all of the old stuff, so I could focus on planning out where everything needed to be using the new grid. I flattened the entire area so I could redo the terrain. Though I soon realized that since we're going to have to redo this area anyway, I could try to incorporate the area currently out of bounds into the grid by squeezing down that area. Now I could use the finalized reference grid to lay out all the terrain. But I found out this peninsula was in the wrong spot as well, so I used the terrain blueprints to move it and all the rocks attached to it. Now it was time to lay out all the terrain. This area in particular shows off how far off we were, especially now that we squeezed the entire zoo onto the map. With the terrain being done, we could paint in where all the paths are meant to go. I used the coarse sand to lay this all out. I'm also using the dark soil to mark out bodies of water and the light soil to mark out habitats. And now for the biggest challenge. Putting back the crocodile and hippo residence. Because it's too big to blueprint, I had to make a habitat out of it first. So I had to clean up all the stuff around it. Also, when replacing it, I wanted to make sure to put it at a level the water would look good inside the habitats. So just under the floor level. I marked out where the water was going to be using these arch shapes. When trying to place the building, I got an error. So I figured out I had to remove some trash cans. With the building in place, I could fix some of the errors around the building. Most of these errors were caused by the varying heights around the building in the previous version. Now that the terrain was all flat, I was able to solve these. And that's about it so far. So there is a bit of a silver lining to all this. Not only do I get to make sure that the park remains accurate, I also get to fix some small annoyances that improve the things we'd built already. If only I had just done them right from the start. Planning is important, kids. Anyway, that's all from me. Have a nice day, and I'll see you on stream or in the next video. Bye bye. Now the terrain, now that the terrain was all flat. Now I'm just laughing.